I pretended to be someone's boyfriend for one night and now we're married. I was sitting at a bar downtown on a Friday night, minding my own business and nursing a beer, when a woman I'd never seen before walked up to me, grabbed my face, and kissed me. Not a peck. A full kiss that lasted 3 seconds and tasted like wine and desperation. She pulled back, her hands still on my shoulders, and looked me directly in the eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, "but I need you to play along, please." Before I could ask what the hell was happening, she turned around and smiled at a couple who'd just walked up behind her. "Mom, Dad, this is my boyfriend, the one I've been telling you about." Her mother was a stern-looking woman in a blazer who looked me up and down like she was calculating my net worth. Her father was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing an expression that said he was ready to interrogate me about my intentions. I should have said something. I should have told them this was clearly a mistake, that I'd never met their daughter before, that I was just a random guy at a bar who'd been ambushed by a kiss. Instead, I heard myself say, "Nice to finally meet you both. She's told me so much about you." The woman's grip on my shoulder tightened in what I assumed was gratitude. Her mother's expression didn't change. "Interesting. She hasn't told us anything about you? Not your name, not what you do, not how you met? Nothing. That's because I wanted it to be a surprise," the woman said quickly. "I knew you'd be in town this week and I wanted you to meet him in person rather than just hearing about him over the phone." Her father crossed his arms. "And your name is?" I looked at the woman. She looked back at me with eyes that were equal parts pleading and panicked. We hadn't discussed a single detail of this fake relationship, and now I was supposed to have a name that matched whatever story she'd invented. "Andrew," I said, picking the first name that came to mind. "Andrew Fletcher." "And what do you do, Andrew?" her mother asked. "I'm in software development. Web applications, mostly." That part was actually true. The woman seemed to relax slightly. "How did you two meet?" her father asked. The woman jumped in before I could answer. "At a coffee shop, 3 months ago. I spilled my latte all over his laptop and felt terrible, so I insisted on buying him a new drink. We got to talking and—" She trailed off, looking at me to finish. "And I asked for her number before she could leave," I continued. "Best coffee shop accident of my life." Her mother's expression softened slightly, which I took as a good sign. Her father still looked skeptical. 3 months, he said. "That's not very long." "Long enough to know she's special," I said, and the woman squeezed my shoulder again. We were improvising a relationship in real time and somehow not completely failing. Her mother checked her watch. "We have dinner reservations in 20 minutes. I assume you'll be joining us, Andrew?" My beer was still half full on the bar behind me. I'd been planning to finish it, go home, and watch basketball. Now I was apparently going to dinner with strangers while pretending to date someone whose name I didn't even know. "I'd love to," I said. The woman finally released my shoulder and took my hand instead, interlacing our fingers like we'd done this 1,000 times. Her hand was warm and slightly trembling. We followed her parents out of the bar and onto the street. The moment we were a few steps behind them, she leaned close and whispered, "Thank you. I'll explain everything. I promise. And I'm Sophia, by the way. Andrew, but you already know that because I just made it up in front of your parents." She let out a small, slightly hysterical laugh. "I'm so sorry. I panicked. They showed up 3 days early and I wasn't prepared, and they kept asking about my boyfriend, and I didn't know what to do. So you grabbed a random stranger at a bar? You were the closest person who looked reasonably dateable. I didn't have time to be picky. Reasonably dateable. I'll put that on my dating profile." She squeezed my hand. "I owe you everything. Dinner is on me. And after tonight, you never have to see me again." We arrived at an Italian restaurant 3 blocks away. The hostess seated us at a table near the window, and I found myself sitting across from Sophia's parents while trying to remember every detail of the fake relationship we'd just invented. 3 months. Coffee shop. Spilled latte. Her name was Sophia. My name was Andrew, which was actually my real name, so at least I wouldn't forget that part. The waiter came and took drink orders. Sophia's father ordered scotch. Her mother ordered white wine. Sophia ordered red wine and looked like she wanted to drink the entire bottle. I ordered another beer and tried to look relaxed. "So, Andrew," Sophia's mother began, once the waiter left, "tell us about yourself. Where did you grow up?" "Illinois, small town outside Chicago. Moved here for college and stayed for work." All true. I was accidentally being honest, which made the lying easier. "And your family?" "Parents are still in Illinois. One sister, younger, she's a teacher." Also true. This was the easiest fake relationship I'd ever been in. "Do you see them often?" Sophia's father asked. "Few times a year, holidays mostly. We video call regularly, though." Sophia was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Grateful, maybe, but also curious, like she was learning about the person she was supposedly dating. "What about your intentions with our daughter?" her father asked bluntly. Sophia choked on her water. "Dad, we've been dating for 3 months. Can we not do the interrogation thing right now?" "I think it's a fair question." her mother said. You've been very secretive about this relationship. We're just trying to understand what's happening. I could feel Sophia tensing beside me. This was the moment where I could bail, make an excuse, end this charade before it went any further. Instead, I reached under the table and found her hand, the same way she'd grabbed mine outside the bar. My intentions are to make her happy, I said. That's it. That's all I'm focused on right now. Sophia's hand tightened around mine. Her father studied me for a long moment, then nodded slightly. Good answer. The waiter returned with our drinks and took our dinner orders. The conversation shifted to safer topics. Sophia's mother talked about their flight in and their hotel. Her father asked about my job in more detail, and I explained web development in a way that made it sound more interesting than it actually was. Sophia jumped in occasionally with comments that suggested she knew things about my work, my habits, my life. She was good at this, better than I was. She referenced a fictional movie we'd seen together last week. She mentioned a restaurant we'd tried that had terrible service but amazing food. She built an entire relationship out of nothing, and I followed her lead, adding details that made sense, that felt real. By the time our entrees arrived, I almost believed we'd been dating for 3 months. Her parents had relaxed considerably. Her mother even smiled when Sophia told a story about me supposedly trying to cook dinner for her and nearly setting off the smoke alarm. He's better at ordering takeout, Sophia said, squeezing my hand above the table now. Much better. Everyone has their strengths, I said. Her father actually laughed. Halfway through dinner, Sophia's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face went pale. Excuse me, I need to take this. She stood up and walked toward the restaurant entrance. Her mother watched her go with concern. Is everything all right? I'm sure it's fine, I said, though I had no idea. I was flying blind through this entire evening. Her father leaned forward. Andrew, can I be honest with you? Of course. Sophia has had a difficult year. The breakup with her previous boyfriend was hard on her. We worry about her. She doesn't always make the best choices. I nodded, unsure what to say. I didn't know anything about her previous boyfriend or her difficult year. But tonight, her mother added, seeing her with you, she seems lighter, happier. I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. The weight of their words settled on me. They genuinely cared about their daughter. They wanted her to be happy. And here I was, helping her lie to them. Sophia returned a few minutes later, her expression carefully neutral. Everything okay? I asked. Fine, just work stuff. But her hand was shaking when she picked up her wine glass. Something had rattled her with that phone call. After dinner, her parents announced they were heading back to their hotel. They had an early morning tomorrow and wanted to rest. Sophia's mother hugged her goodbye, then surprised me by hugging me too. It was lovely to meet you, Andrew. I'm glad Sophia has someone who makes her happy. Her father shook my hand with a grip that was slightly too firm. Take care of her. I will. They left, and suddenly it was just Sophia and me standing on the sidewalk outside the restaurant. The performance was over. The curtain had closed. We were just two strangers again. I can't believe we pulled that off, Sophia said. She was still holding my hand, though I wasn't sure if she'd noticed. Your parents are terrifying. I know. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Why did you need a fake boyfriend? I asked. What was so bad about telling them the truth? She let go of my hand and wrapped her arms around herself. The truth is, I broke up with my actual boyfriend 2 months ago, and I didn't tell them. They loved him. They thought we were getting married. When they asked about him on the phone last week, I panicked and said we were still together. So you invented a new boyfriend instead of just telling them you broke up? When you say it like that, it sounds insane. Because it is insane. She laughed, a real laugh that made her eyes crinkle. I know it's crazy, but they were so excited about visiting and meeting him, and I couldn't deal with disappointing them again. I disappoint them a lot. There was something in her voice that made me think this went deeper than just a breakup. Again? I asked. She looked away. I dropped out of law school last year. They were not thrilled. Then I quit my corporate job to freelance as a graphic designer, which they also hated. Then the boyfriend they actually approved of dumped me because I wasn't ambitious enough. So yeah, I have a track record of letting them down. Sounds like you have a track record of making choices for yourself instead of for them. She looked back at me, surprised. That's actually a nice way to put it. We stood there for a moment, traffic passing by, the restaurant noise muffled behind us. Who called you during dinner? I asked. She hesitated. My ex, the one my parents think I'm still dating. What did he want? To tell me he's engaged. To someone he met 6 weeks ago. He wanted me to hear it from him before I saw it on social media. The pieces clicked together. So he dumps you for not being ambitious enough, then gets engaged to someone else 2 months later. Apparently she's a corporate attorney, very ambitious, very approved of by everyone's parents. Her voice cracked slightly. I'm sorry, I said. That's awful timing. Timing has never been my strong suit. She pulled out her phone and checked the time. I should let you go. You've already done way more than any reasonable stranger should. Thank you, she said finally, for tonight, for going along with this ridiculous plan, for being a surprisingly convincing fake boyfriend. You're welcome. And for what it's worth, you're a very convincing fake girlfriend. She smiled. Can I buy you a real drink? To make up for kidnapping you from that bar? I should have said no. I should have gone home. The night was over. The favor was done, and we could both move on with our lives. Sure, I said. We walked back to the bar where this had all started and found 2 seats at the end. Sophia ordered another glass of wine. I got another beer. So, I said, tell me about the real Sophia. The one who isn't making up stories for her parents. She took a long sip of wine. The real Sophia is a mess. She's 28, lives in a studio apartment with too many plants, and spends most of her time designing logos for startups that never take off. She has commitment issues and anxiety and a tendency to catastrophize everything. Sounds pretty normal to me. What about the real Andrew? Who is he when he's not pretending to be someone's boyfriend? I thought about it. The real Andrew is 30, works from home most days, and hasn't been on a date in 6 months because he's terrible at dating apps, and even worse at meeting people in person. 6 months? That seems impossible. I'm very good at being alone. That's sad. It's efficient. She laughed. You're weird. You grabbed a stranger at a bar and made him meet your parents. You don't get to call me weird. We talked for another hour. She told me about her ex-boyfriend, the lawyer who dumped her because she wasn't driven enough. I told her about my last relationship, which had ended because I worked too much and didn't make enough time for the person I was dating. She showed me some of her design work on her phone. I showed her the app I was currently developing for a client. Somewhere around 11 p.m., she checked her phone and sighed. I should probably go. I have a client meeting in the morning. Yeah, I should head home too. Neither of us moved. This was fun, she said. The dinner was stressful, but this part was actually really nice. We should do it again, without your parents. She looked at me, surprised. Are you asking me on a real date? Maybe? Is that weird, given how we met? It's extremely weird, but also kind of perfect. She pulled out her phone. Give me your number. Real number this time. I gave it to her, and she texted me immediately. The message said, Hi, it's your fake girlfriend. I saved her contact and sent back, Hi, it's your fake boyfriend who wants to be your real boyfriend. She read it and grinned. That's very forward. I spent 3 hours convincing your parents I'm dating you. Might as well make it real. We left the bar together. She hugged me goodbye on the sidewalk, and it felt different from earlier. Less desperate, more genuine. Text me, she said. I will. I watched her walk to her car, and I couldn't stop smiling. I'd started the night planning to watch basketball alone. I was ending it with a phone number and a date with someone I'd met in the strangest possible way. I texted her when I got home. Made it back safely. Your parents didn't follow me. She responded immediately. They liked you. My mom texted me saying you seem like a good influence. Should I be worried that I impressed your terrifying mother? Very worried. She's already planning our wedding. I laughed out loud in my empty apartment. We texted for another hour before finally saying goodnight. The next morning, I woke up to a message from Sophia. Coffee? I promise not to spill it on your laptop this time. We met at the same coffee shop she'd invented for our fake origin story. She was wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair down instead of the styled way it had been last night. She looked more relaxed, more herself. Hi, fake boyfriend, she said when I walked up. Hi, fake girlfriend. We ordered coffee and found a table by the window. So how does this work? She asked. Do we keep pretending for your parents or do we actually try this? I vote we try this for real, with the understanding that we're both disasters who are terrible at relationships. That's the most honest first date proposition I've ever heard. She held up her coffee cup. To being disasters together. I clinked my cup against hers. To meeting in the weirdest way possible. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about growing up with high-achieving parents who never understood her creative side. I told her about moving away from home to escape expectations. We discovered we'd both gone to the same college but never met. We both hated cilantro. We both loved terrible reality TV. When we finally left the coffee shop, she took my hand as we walked to our cars. Same time next week? She asked. How about dinner tomorrow? That's very eager. I've already met your parents. Might as well skip the slow build-up. She laughed. Okay, tomorrow. We went to dinner the next night, and the night after that. By the end of the week, we'd seen each other 5 times. It was fast, probably too fast, but there was something about starting with a lie that made the truth feel more important. We didn't have to play games or pretend to be less interested than we were. We'd already done the pretending part. 3 weeks in, Sophia's mother called her while we were having lunch together. Sophia put her on speaker. Hi, Mom. Hi, sweetie. I just wanted to check in. How are things with Andrew? Sophia looked at me across the table. We talked about this, about whether to tell her parents the truth. Things are good. Really good, actually. I'm so glad. Your father and I really liked him. He seems very grounded. He is. When are we going to see you two again? Sophia hesitated. Actually, Mom, there's something I need to tell you. I reached across the table and took her hand. The night you met Andrew, that wasn't exactly how I described it. Her mother was quiet for a moment. What do you mean? We hadn't been dating for 3 months. We'd actually just met that night. I panicked when you showed up early and I grabbed him at the bar and asked him to pretend to be my boyfriend. The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. Mom, you lied to us? Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't know what else to do. So this Andrew, he's not even your real boyfriend? Sophia looked at me. He wasn't then, but he is now. We started actually dating after that night. I don't understand. Why would you do something like that? Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Because I was embarrassed. Because I knew you were disappointed about the breakup with David. Because I'm tired of feeling like I'm failing at everything. Her mother sighed heavily. Sophia, we've never thought you were failing. You didn't approve of me leaving law school. You didn't like me quitting my job. We worried about you. That's not the same as being disappointed. Her mother paused. But lying to us, bringing a stranger to dinner and making us believe he was someone important to you, that crosses a line. I know. I'm sorry. Is he still there? This Andrew? Yes, I'm here, I said. Can I say something? Go ahead. I squeezed Sophia's hand. What she did was impulsive and not well thought out, but her reasons for doing it came from a good place. She loves you both, and she didn't want to disappoint you. And for what it's worth, I'm glad she grabbed me that night, because she's amazing, and I wouldn't have met her otherwise. Another long pause. Then, you really are dating now? This isn't another story? We're really dating, Sophia said. I promise. Well, her mother said slowly, I suppose the unconventional meeting makes for a better story than a coffee shop. Sophia let out a surprised laugh. You're not mad? I'm processing. Your father will have thoughts when I tell him. But no, I'm not mad. Confused? Yes. Mad? No. They talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. Sophia put her phone down and looked at me. I can't believe I just told her the truth. How do you feel? Terrified. Relieved. Like I might throw up. All reasonable responses. She laughed. Thank you for backing me up. That's what real boyfriends do. Her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Your mother just told me everything. We need to discuss boundaries and honesty. But I'll admit it takes courage to grab a stranger and ask them to meet your parents. You inherited that from me? Sophia showed me the message. My dad made a joke. That's his way of saying I'm forgiven. Over the next few months, we fell into a relationship that felt both new and familiar. We'd started with the pressure of a fake 3-month relationship, so the real one felt easier by comparison. No pretending. No games. Just two people who'd met in the strangest way and decided to see where it went. Her parents came to visit again 3 months after that first dinner. This time there was no lying, no pretending. Just an actual relationship with actual history. At dinner, her father asked me, So, Andrew, looking back, would you have done anything differently that first night? I thought about it. I probably should have asked more questions before agreeing to meet you. But no, I wouldn't change anything. It worked out. That it did, he said, raising his glass. Her mother asked Sophia the same question. Would you grab a stranger at a bar again if you could go back? Sophia looked at me and smiled. Only if I knew it would be him. 6 months after we started dating, we moved in together. Her studio apartment was too small for both of us and all her plants, so we found a 2-bedroom that fit us both. My parents flew in to help us move and to meet Sophia. My mom pulled me aside while we were unpacking boxes. She's wonderful. I like her. I like her too. How did you two meet again? You were vague on the phone. I told her the truth. The whole story. From the kiss at the bar to the dinner with her parents, to how it all became real. My mom laughed so hard she cried. That's the most ridiculous meet cute I've ever heard. I know. You're going to have to tell that story at your wedding. We're not engaged yet, Mom. She gave me a look. Yet. She was right, of course. I knew within the first few weeks that Sophia was different. That this was different. 1 year after the night at the bar, I took Sophia back to that same spot where she'd first kissed me. The bartender who'd been working that night was there again. I'd called ahead to arrange things. What are we doing here? Sophia asked, recreating our origin story. Except this time I'm the one who's going to surprise you. I got down on one knee right there in the bar. People turned to look. The bartender was recording on my phone like I'd asked. Sophia, a year ago you grabbed me at this bar and made me pretend to be your boyfriend. You dragged me to dinner with your parents and made me lie about how we met and created this whole fake relationship out of nothing. She was already crying. And somehow that fake relationship became the most real thing in my life. So I'm asking you now, in the place where this all started, will you make this permanent? Will you marry me? She didn't even let me finish before she said yes. The bar erupted in applause. The bartender handed me my phone with the video. Sophia pulled me up and kissed me the same way she had that first night. Desperate and real and perfect. The engagement brought a new challenge, planning a wedding while explaining to every vendor how we met. "So you grabbed him at a bar and made him meet your parents?" our wedding planner asked, trying not to laugh. "Basically," Sophia said. "And then you actually started dating?" "We figured we'd already done the hard part. Might as well make it real." The planner shook her head, smiling. "That's either the most romantic or most insane thing I've ever heard." "Can't it be both?" I asked. For our engagement photos, we went back to that bar. The photographer had us recreate the moment Sophia grabbed me, complete with the shocked expression on my face. "These are going to be interesting wedding photos," the photographer said. "Good," Sophia replied. "Normal is overrated." We sent the engagement announcement to friends and family with one of those photos and a caption that read, "Started with a lie, ended with a yes." My college roommate called me immediately. "Dude, this is the girl from the bar story? You're actually marrying her?" "I am." "That's insane." "I know. I love it. Can I tell that story at your wedding?" "Everyone's going to tell that story at my wedding." And they did. At our rehearsal dinner, person after person stood up and shared their version of hearing about how we met. My sister talked about my phone call that night, how confused I'd sounded trying to explain what had just happened. Sophia's best friend talked about the panicked text she'd received. "I just grabbed a random guy at a bar and made him meet my parents. What is wrong with me?" Her parents gave a joint speech about how skeptical they'd been, how betrayed they'd felt when they learned the truth, but how glad they were that Sophia's impulsive decision had led to something real. "We've learned that sometimes the path to happiness isn't straightforward," her mother said. "Sometimes it involves lying to your parents and grabbing strangers at bars. We don't recommend it, but we can't argue with the results." The day of the wedding arrived faster than I expected. I stood at the altar watching Sophia walk down the aisle and thought about how a year and a half ago I'd been a stranger to her, someone she'd grabbed out of desperation. Now she was about to become my wife. During my vows, I said, "Sophia, when you kissed me at that bar, I had a choice. I could have said no. I could have walked away. I could have told your parents the truth. But something made me say yes. Maybe it was your eyes. Maybe it was the wine on your breath. Maybe it was the universe telling me to take a chance. Whatever it was, I'm glad I listened. Because saying yes to one night of pretending led to a lifetime of something real." I had to pause because my voice cracked. "You taught me that sometimes the best things come from the worst plans. That sometimes courage looks like desperation. That sometimes the person you're meant to be with shows up in the strangest way." Sophia was crying. Half the audience was crying. "I love you. I loved you when you were a stranger pretending to be my boyfriend. I love you now as the person I know better than anyone. And I'll love you tomorrow and every day after as your husband." When it was Sophia's turn, she pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I wrote vows," she said, "but now I want to say something different." She looked at me. "Andrew, I was terrified the night I grabbed you. Terrified of disappointing my parents, terrified of being alone, terrified of admitting I'd failed at another relationship. So I did the most impulsive thing I've ever done. I grabbed a complete stranger and made him my fake boyfriend." She laughed through her tears. "And you said yes? You didn't question it? You didn't run away? You just said yes and followed me to dinner and met my terrifying parents and played along with my insane lie." She wiped her eyes. "But the thing is, I wasn't just scared that night. I was also hopeful. Because when I looked around that bar for someone to grab, I saw you. And something in me said, him, not because you were the closest." "Okay, partially because you were the closest," she admitted, and everyone laughed. "But also because you looked kind. You looked like someone who might say yes. You looked like someone who might understand." She took my hands. "And you were. You are. You understood my panic and my lies and my messy relationship with my parents. You understood all of it and you stayed anyway. You turned one night of pretending into something neither of us had to fake." She squeezed my hands. "I love you. I loved you when you were a stranger doing me a favor. I love you now as my partner and my best friend, and I'll love you forever as your wife. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for not running away. Thank you for being exactly who I needed exactly when I needed you." By the end, I was crying too. The officiant had to wait a moment before continuing because we were both trying to compose ourselves. When he finally pronounced us married, the entire room erupted. We kissed, and it felt both like that first kiss at the bar and completely different. At the reception, the bartender from that night showed up as a surprise guest. Sophia had tracked him down and invited him weeks ago. He raised a glass during the toasts. "I've been bartending for 15 years, and I've seen a lot of weird stuff. But watching this woman grab this man and kiss him out of nowhere, then watching them pretend to know each other for her parents, that was top 5 weirdest things I've ever witnessed." Everyone laughed. But you know what? I've also never seen two people look at each other the way these two did. Even that first night when they were pretending. There was something real there from the start. They just had to figure it out. He raised his glass higher. "To Andrew and Sophia, may your marriage be as unexpected and perfect as your first meeting." We danced until our feet hurt. We took photos with everyone we loved. We cut a cake that had a tiny fondant figure of a couple at a bar on top, complete with a woman grabbing a man's face. Sophia's idea, obviously. My best man gave a speech about how I'd called him that night. He said, and I quote, "I just met a girl who either thinks I'm her boyfriend or is having some kind of episode. I'm not sure which, but I think I like her." And I said, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Don't get involved." And he said, "Too late. I'm already at dinner with her parents." Everyone roared with laughter. So this is my fault, really. If he'd listened to me, none of this would have happened. You're welcome. Later in the night, Sophia's father pulled me aside. "You know, when she first told us the truth about how you met, I was angry. I felt manipulated. I understand. But watching you two today, seeing how you look at each other, I realized something. The circumstances were unusual, but the connection was real. You can't fake that." He put his hand on my shoulder. "Take care of my daughter, Andrew, even when she makes impulsive decisions and grabs strangers at bars. Especially then," I said. He laughed and walked away. At the end of the night, Sophia and I stood in the parking lot of the venue, both of us exhausted and happy. "We did it," she said. "We actually got married. We did. How did we get here? From a random bar to this?" I pulled her close. "You grabbed me." I said yes. Everything else just followed. Best impulse decision I ever made. Best yes I ever gave. We drove to a hotel near the airport. We were flying to Italy for our honeymoon in the morning. But before we left, before we started that next chapter, we made one more stop. We drove back to the bar. It was late, almost midnight, but the place was still open. We walked in and sat at the same spots where we'd first talked after dinner with her parents. The same bartender was working. He saw us and grinned. "Back already? The marriage didn't take?" "Just wanted to end where we started," Sophia said. He poured us 2 drinks on the house. "To the weirdest couple I've ever met." We clinked glasses and drank. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd grabbed someone else?" I asked. Sophia thought about it. "All the time. But I didn't. I grabbed you." "Why me, though? Really?" She looked at me for a long moment. "Honestly, you were smiling. Not at anything in particular. Just smiling while you sat there alone. And I thought, that's someone who's okay with himself. That's someone who might be okay with me, too. I wasn't that okay with myself. Neither was I. But we figured it out together. We finished our drinks and left the bar one last time as a married couple. As we walked to the car, Sophia stopped and looked back at the entrance. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For being at that bar. For being the person I grabbed. For saying yes when you could have said no." I kissed her. "Thank you for grabbing me." We flew to Italy the next morning. We spent 2 weeks eating pasta and drinking wine and exploring cities neither of us had been to before. On our last night in Rome, we sat at a restaurant overlooking the city, and Sophia pulled out her phone. My mom texted me earlier. She said she's been thinking about our story. And she said she's glad I panicked that night. She said sometimes the best things come from our worst moments. I reached across the table and took her hand. "Your mom's pretty smart. Don't tell her that. She'll never let me forget it." We flew home and moved into our apartment as a married couple. We hung our wedding photos on the walls, including the ones from the bar where we met. Friends who visited always asked about those photos. We told the story every time, and it never got old. 6 months after the wedding, Sophia got a call from a podcast that focused on unusual love stories. They'd heard about us through a mutual friend and wanted to interview us. "Should we do it?" she asked. "Why not? We've already told everyone we know." We spent an hour on the podcast telling our story. The host kept laughing in disbelief. "So you just grabbed him? Without any plan?" "Without any plan," Sophia confirmed. "And you just went along with it?" he asked me. "I did." "Why?" I thought about it. "Because life is short and boring things happen every day. And when something interesting shows up, even if it's weird and makes no sense, you should probably say yes." The podcast episode went viral. We started getting messages from strangers telling us they loved our story, that it gave them hope, that it made them believe in taking chances. One message stood out. It was from a woman who said she'd been at that same bar the night Sophia grabbed me. She'd seen the whole thing. "I watched you two at dinner through the restaurant window across the street. I was waiting for my own date who never showed up. I was feeling sorry for myself, but then I saw you two and I thought, at least someone's having an interesting night. I had no idea what I was actually watching," she continued. "Reading about how you ended up married made me realize that sometimes what looks like chaos from the outside is actually the beginning of something beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story." Sophia cried when she read it. "We affected a stranger." "We did. That's insane. Everything about us is insane." A year after our wedding, we went back to the bar on our anniversary. It had become a tradition. The bartender saw us coming and already had our drinks ready. "The anniversary couple?" he said, setting down a beer for me and wine for Sophia. "Year 1. How's married life?" "Weird and wonderful." Sophia said. Same as everything else about us. We sat at our usual spots and toasted to surviving a year of marriage. Do you think we'll still be doing this in 10 years? Sophia asked. Coming back here every anniversary? I hope so. What about 20 years? 50? I looked around the bar. As long as this place is still standing, yeah. I think we will. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Good. I like our traditions. Even the weird ones. Especially the weird ones. 2 years after our wedding, Sophia announced she was pregnant. We were sitting at home when she told me, and I immediately suggested we go to the bar to celebrate. We're celebrating at the place where I ambushed you? Where else would we celebrate? We went that night. The bartender congratulated us and gave us sparkling cider instead of our usual drinks. This place is going to be in your kid's origin story, he said. How do you feel about that? Proud, Sophia said. Our kid is going to have the weirdest how did mom and dad meet story of anyone in their class. When our daughter was born, we named her Grace. Not after anyone in particular, just because we liked it, but also because Grace felt like the right word for what had happened to us. Grace for Sophia's impulsive decision. Grace for my willingness to say yes. Grace for everything that followed. We brought Grace to the bar when she was 3 months old. The bartender took a photo of the three of us sitting in the same spots where Sophia and I had first talked. This is going up on the wall, he said. You two are officially bar legends. When Grace was old enough to ask how we met, we told her the truth. The whole story, nothing left out. She listened with wide eyes. Mommy grabbed a stranger? Mommy grabbed Daddy, Sophia corrected. But yes, technically a stranger at the time. That's silly? It is silly, I agreed. But it worked out. As Grace grew up, she loved hearing the story. She'd ask us to tell it at bedtime, adding more questions each time. What if Daddy said no? Then I would have had to grab someone else. What if nobody said yes? Then I would have had to tell Grandma and Grandpa the truth. Would that have been bad? Sophia and I exchanged a look. It would have been honest, I said, which is usually better than lying, even if it's scarier. When Grace was 7, she had to do a project for school about her family. She insisted on including the story of how we met, complete with illustrations she drew of Sophia grabbing my face at the bar. Her teacher called us in for a parent conference. Grace's project was unique, she said carefully. She says you two met because her mother grabbed you at a bar and made you meet her grandparents? That's accurate, Sophia said. The teacher didn't quite know how to respond. It's unconventional. That's one word for it, I said. But it's the truth. We tell Grace honest stories, even the weird ones. The teacher smiled. Well, it certainly made for the most memorable presentation. The other kids couldn't stop talking about it. Grace beamed with pride. On our 10th anniversary, we went back to the bar as usual, but this time we brought Grace with us. She was 8 years old and so excited to see the place where her parents met. This is it? She asked, looking around. I thought it would be fancier. It's a bar, sweetheart, Sophia said. They're not usually fancy. The bartender, who'd been working there all 10 years we'd been coming back, made Grace a Shirley Temple. Your parents are the best love story I've ever seen, he told her. And I've seen a lot of people meet at this bar. They're weird, Grace said matter-of-factly. The best people usually are. We sat at our usual spots, Grace between us, and toasted to 10 years. I can't believe it's been a decade, Sophia said. Feels like yesterday and forever ago at the same time. Do you regret it? I asked. Grabbing a stranger? Never. Best worst decision I ever made. Grace tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, will you tell me the story again? We just told you this morning. I know, but I want to hear it here, where it happened. So we told the story again, sitting in the exact place where it began. About panic and impulse and saying yes to something strange. About a fake relationship becoming real. About taking chances and finding love in unexpected places. When we finished, Grace said, I'm glad Mommy grabbed you. Me too, kid. Me too. We sat there for another hour, just the three of us, in the bar where everything started. Where two strangers became something more. Where a lie became truth. Where panic became love. Later that night, after we put Grace to bed, Sophia and I sat on the couch. 10 years, she said. Since the bar. Best decade of my life. Mine too. She curled up against me. Do you ever think about what would have happened if things had gone differently? If you'd said no? All the time. But you didn't give me much choice. You just grabbed me and started lying to your parents. She laughed. True. Sorry about that. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me. We sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes after years together. After countless conversations and arguments and makeups. After building a life from nothing. Andrew? Yeah? Thank you for saying yes. I kissed the top of her head. Thank you for asking. 15 years after that night at the bar, we took Grace, now a teenager, back to our anniversary spot. She rolled her eyes when we suggested it. Do we have to? That place is so old. That place is where your parents met, Sophia said. It's tradition. Grace came along reluctantly, but by the time we got there, she was smiling. The bar had changed ownership, and our favorite bartender had retired. But the place still felt the same. We sat in our usual spots and ordered our usual drinks. Grace got a soda and pulled out her phone. "Mom, Dad, can I ask you something?" "Sure," I said. "Do you think grabbing a stranger is good relationship advice?" Sophia and I looked at each other and laughed. "Absolutely not," Sophia said. "Then why do you always tell the story like it's romantic?" "Because it is romantic," I said. "But it's also lucky. Most of the time, grabbing a stranger at a bar doesn't end with marriage and a family." "So, what's the actual lesson?" Grace asked. We thought about it. "Take chances," Sophia said, "even when they're scary. And when someone offers you something unexpected," I added, "don't automatically say no. Sometimes the weird paths are the right ones." Grace considered this. "So basically, you're saying I should be impulsive and trust strangers?" "No," we said in unison. "We're saying," Sophia clarified, "that sometimes life puts opportunities in front of you that don't make sense, and sometimes those are the ones worth taking." Grace nodded slowly. "Okay, that's actually pretty good advice." We finished our drinks and left the bar. On the way to the car, Grace said, "You know, when I'm older and I meet someone, I'm going to have to come up with a way better story than we met on a dating app." "Or," Sophia suggested, "you could just be honest about however it happens. That's usually the best story anyway. Even if it's boring." "Nothing real is boring," I said. 20 years after the night at the bar, Sophia and I went back alone. Grace was in college, living her own life, making her own stories. We sat in our usual spots and ordered our usual drinks. The place had changed again. New owners, new staff, new decor. But we kept coming back. 20 years, Sophia said, shaking her head. 2 decades since I grabbed your face and ruined your Friday night. Best ruined Friday night of my life. She took my hand across the bar. "Do you think we'd have met any other way? If I hadn't grabbed you?" "I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. I like to think we would have. That somehow, some way, we were supposed to find each other. Maybe," I said. "Or maybe you got really lucky grabbing a stranger who happened to be single and willing to go along with your insane plan. Luck, fate, whatever. I'll take it." We sat in comfortable silence, watching other people come and go. Young couples on dates, friends meeting for drinks, strangers who might become something more. "Andrew? Yeah? If I could go back and do it differently, I wouldn't change a thing. Not even the lying to your parents part? Not even that, because it gave us this. All of it." I squeezed her hand. "Me neither." We finished our drinks and left the bar one more time. As we walked to the car, Sophia looked back at the entrance. "Same time next year?" she asked. "Always," I said, and we kept that promise. Every year, every anniversary, we went back. Back to the place where 2 strangers became something more. Where pretending became real. Where one impulsive decision changed everything. I pretended to be someone's boyfriend for one night. And now, decades later, I'm still her husband. Still saying yes. Still grateful she grabbed me at that bar. Still living the best unexpected life I could have imagined. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.